Welcome back. President Biden is expected to speak any moment now at the COP26 conference in Glasgow. The president is also meeting with leaders from 200 countries to figure out a global plan on climate change.
Some dire warnings about the future of the planet have led up to this climate summit. For some insight on what to expect this week, we're joined by Maria Ivanova. She's the director of the Center for Governance and Sustainability at the University of Massachusetts. Good morning, Maria. What should we expect from these climate talks? We hear a lot of talk about it, a lot of buzz, a lot of commitments to change, but actual concrete steps, what do you expect?
Well, I expect two things from this summit. I expect discussion on ambition, and I expect discussion on implementation. And the issue of ambition is about how do we commit, whether it's the United States, China, Russia, or the smaller countries, how do we commit to meeting the objectives so that we avoid the existential climate crisis? But even more importantly is how do we then ensure that countries implement these commitments? How do we ensure that whatever countries commit to does happen in practice? And that's a big if these days.
Are you sensing any frustration, from leaders who are seeing that? Because like Dave was talking about, we've been talking about this for a long time. Climate change has always been a center of conversation. So are you sensing any frustration?
There's a lot of frustration going around. You see it all around, from the climate activists that are gathering around and the signs they're holding, from Greta Thunberg, that is back in the climate scene in person, and indeed in the hallways for those of us who are not there but are in the Zoom rooms around the world. We are frustrated. Even the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, said this is a make it or break it moment, and yet world leaders are not coming up with the kind of commitments that are necessary.
Maria, you mentioned the young activist Greta Thunberg. She arrived there yesterday, not invited, interestingly, to COP26, but she arrived there yesterday via train and was mobbed like Michael Jackson in his prime. Unlike anything I've seen, police had to escort her out. But you, in your first answer, mentioned Russia and China, two notables who aren't even on the stage. So how effective can all this be when they don't even show up?
And we'll hear President Biden scolding these countries in a way. They're leaders. He has been very open about it, saying why are they not at the table? It is important because Russia and China are really critical, not only economies, but also political powers. And Xi Jinping was critical to the Paris Climate Agreement in 2015. And China is the biggest polluter. However, China is also the biggest producer of renewable energy. And so China can make or break this agreement indeed. So these are very, very important players. But there is a certain constituency that we actually often overlook, and that is of small states. And I will be monitoring during this COP, what is the role of small states? How do they speak up? And what kind of leadership opportunities are being opened up for countries who could push the bigger economies, whether it's the United States, China, or Russia, into making commitments and fulfilling those commitments, because the smaller states will suffer most, and yet they have the least opportunity to actually do something about it.
So, Marie, when we're talking about all the world leaders coming together, this is no small number. This is nearly 200 nations. How realistic is it to have all of them agree on cutting greenhouse gas emissions, or really anything else for that matter?
Oh, they've already agreed to it. So that's very realistic. We have the Paris Climate Agreement. All nation states, this was a universal agreement in 2015, and all countries, yes, almost 200 of them did agree to cutting their emissions, to protecting or to ensuring that climate change does not exceed 2 degrees and stays closer to 1.5 degrees, which is the big issue now, and to reaching net zero by middle of the century, which is 2050. So the agreement is there. The question now is, how do we make it happen? And that's what this Conference of the Parties is about.
Indeed. Director of the Center for Governance and Sustainability from UMass. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you very much.